Hey guys, whoa, sorry. Let me know if the stream image and the audio is. I'm gonna wait till a few more people join here. I want to talk about the background, but I think it's okay. Basically, oh, are you guys still? I'm getting an error from YouTube. Are you guys still seeing stuff? I hope so. Maybe. Anyhow, I will keep going here and see. It's not receiving a video. How's it go? With the green screen is ambient soundscapes. There's a lot of ambient guitar, but there's also let's see, on that channel also. It's been a lot of fun doing it. Again, if you haven't checked it out, please do so. See if you can. You know, stream status is showing good. I'm seeing some drops, so I'm sorry about that, guys. Again, okay, right now it's good. All right, let's see here. Hold on just a sec. No, that's not going to work. I'm going to go with it. If it's too bad, I'll drop and we'll try this again, maybe a little bit later. Anyhow, let me put in one more plug and then we'll get into the topic at hand. The other plug is for Bandcamp. You guys probably know I'm on Bandcamp, but I do have a Bandcamp subscription. So if you're interested in supporting me a little bit more, you can check that out. It's chordsoforion.bandcamp.com/subscribe. And what I do there is, obviously, subscribers get all my albums included with a subscription amount. And in addition, I try to post every month, every 2 months, 1 to 2 months, an exclusive piece for the subscribers there on Bandcamp. All right. Anyhow, so let's talk about creating while quarantined. So my life perhaps hasn't changed as much as some. You guys know I've got a day job, full-time day job, and typically the rhythm there is I do drive to work. It's a pretty short drive, so I don't have a long commute, but I do have the option of working from home, and I actually, when I do that, I'm actually down here in my studio, the dungeon, as I call it. And so the main thing, the difference I've seen in terms of work at least, is that I'm down here each and every day. And one of the things I've noticed, and I'd be interested to see if you guys feel the same way, if you're now working from home all the time, this place, the dungeon, used to be kind of a place of refuge for me, so to speak, because I'd be going about the other things in my life, right? Work, family, whatever else. And then I come down here and it's all kind of dark and quiet, and I can record music, shoot videos, and just kind of focus on the art. But now that I'm working full-time every day down here, I'm here from basically 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning until I knock off for the evening, so 5 to 6 o'clock at night, local time. And I've been finding I haven't been as excited to come down here after I stop working, have some food, you know, dinner, supper, and then come back down. I'm having trouble keeping myself motivated. So if you've had an experience like that, let me know what you think. Let me look at some comments here. Yeah, I see some comments about the stream dropping. It does. YouTube's telling me it's excellent right now, so I'm hoping it is. Anyhow, yeah, is it YouTube breaking? No, unfortunately, like I said, my local internet service provider has been having issues, I think, with all the additional bandwidth used by people telecommuting. Anyhow, so that's been an issue for me. Is like, how do I keep motivated when I've got to be in this space like all the time? I mean, I guess I could work upstairs. Possibly I could set up a corner in my bedroom to work. but really I'd have to move a lot of stuff up there. I've got more connectivity down here in the basement. It's just a better place to be connected and working for the type of stuff I do. So how do I keep motivated? So that's been really interesting for me. A couple of things that I have done is, Beto says, I don't blame you. I feel less productive now that we're supposed to stay home for whatever reason. Yeah, exactly. So I've got a couple questions here. I'll get back to them in just a sec. But one of the things I've been doing that I kind of stopped for a while is I've started reading fiction when I go to bed. I've always enjoyed reading in bed for a little bit before I fall asleep. And with all the busyness of life, I'd kind of stopped doing that. And I've found that just reading some good fiction has been really helpful for me to kind of disengage and kind of refresh my mind, even as I'm like super tired and like getting ready to fall asleep. I've really enjoyed that over the last few weeks to a month or so as this whole thing has unfolded. And you may be asking, what are you reading, Bill? Well, I just finished up C.S. Lewis's what they call the Space Trilogy, Out of the Silent Planet, Paralandra, and That Hideous Strength. I really enjoy that trilogy. I've been reading it since I was a kid, so I hadn't read it for a while, so I kind of pulled it out. It's just kind of old, familiar books, right, to kind of disengage with. That's been a lot of fun. One of the other things that I've been getting back into spending more time with is poetry. Some of you may know that I'm quite fond of naming my songs after lines in poems. So I've put down John Donne and William Wordsworth a little bit. They're two of my absolute favorite poets, and I've been picking them back up just to read and enjoy their poetry. So if you've never read John Donne or William Wordsworth, highly recommend it. If you're interested in poetry that comes from an English, right? They're both English poets from 300, 400, or 500 years ago. So if you're interested in kind of reading from that cultural background, they're definitely two great poets to read. All right, couple of comments here. Awoke says, are you going to do another song from fans video again? I don't think so, at least not in the same way. The last time I did the ambient guitar highlights, if you guys were around almost 2 years ago now, I guess it was, when I did that, I found a couple things. One is that some of you all, after we did the ambient guitar highlights, took the music that you had created, that was really good music, and then created an album release and put it out on CD Baby or some other distribution. And then because of that, YouTube caught it, and it wasn't a copyright strike, but it was a content ID, and it was starting to cause problems. So I don't think I can really do that again without having issues with the videos. I actually had to take some of those videos down because there were just content ID matches, and it was just getting too complicated. So I was thinking, though, since we're all kind of stuck at home for a while, it might be interesting to do a series where maybe I give you guys assignments. So let me know what you think in the comments. What if I said, hey, here's an assignment for something to try this week? And then maybe in the video I talked about maybe how I'm going to do the assignment, maybe demo it. I don't know, maybe it could be, let's try stacking some delays and set up delay 1 like this and set up delay 2 like this and try some different combinations. And then maybe if you guys posted videos or elsewhere, we could just kind of drop links in the comments so we could check it out that way instead of me trying to put it together in a video. Let me know what you think in the chat window about that idea. All right, let's see. David says, I've been using the extra time to make a new yeah, let me try that again. I've been using the time to make a new pedal board, so I haven't played as much. Well, David, that's not a bad idea, making a new pedal board. That's actually a pretty cool creative endeavor, as long as you start playing again, right, after you make the pedal board. But that's cool. Good to hear. Let's see. Duncan says, I've been finding it a good opportunity to get back to basics and work on my technique. Now that is an excellent, excellent idea. Use the extra time to woodshed and really work on your guitar playing techniques. So let me propound on that for just a moment. You know, a lot of us here are playing ambient guitar, right? I've heard some of us say, oh, this is great. I don't really have to learn my instrument. I can just string a bunch of effect pedals together and make some cool sounding music. Well, yes and no. I think the best course of action is to learn how to use the effects for sure, but also make sure that you're always improving your guitar playing. That will give you so much more depth and breadth into the things that you can do no matter what the genre is, whether it's ambient guitar, rock, folk, whatever it might be. So that's great to hear, Duncan. Really great to hear. Let's see. Daniel Elizane says, I've been like that too. Just moved in the day before. Yeah. Oh man, you moved. Oh, great. I don't know. I've been really unmotivated. Even making music hasn't been the same for me. Yeah, I know. It's like everything is up in the air, right? Our lives have really changed a lot. And I have a family here, but I'm kind of at the tail end of my family. My wife obviously is here with me. You saw her in a video recently, right? And I have my two youngest kids here. My two youngest, they're two daughters, and they're both basically college age. So it's actually pretty quiet around here. But for families, younger families, maybe got some younger kids around the house, and they can't get out. Oh man, what a crazy thing to deal with. Okay. Whoa, Kenneth, wine motivates me to record. I let go of my inhibitions and am able to go for it when I'm playing. Just moderate the wine. Now, it's too early in the day for me right now, but if it was later in the evening, I would definitely have a nice IPA here, although we do enjoy wine also, so I guess it would be possible that could have had a glass of wine here, but make sure it's in moderation. I did read an article that's, at least here in the US, that alcohol and liquor sales are up like 55% since this whole thing started. So we all got to be a little careful, I think, on that score. That's my dad's sermon. Just ignore me for that. I got too many kids. David says, it's the whole anxiety. Absolutely. When you're anxious, or when I'm anxious, it is hard to be motivated for sure. Fiction and good weed. Well, I live in Virginia, so the good weed part's not legal. Plus, I don't smoke. But I get where you're coming from, though, for sure. Let's see. We've got people that like science fiction, poetry. John Donne, Robert Frost. Oh yeah, Robert Frost. Yeah. That's great. Okay. Okay. So we got some people saying they like the idea of the ambient guitar assignments. So yeah, let me think about that over the weekend. I'm going to be shooting some video over the weekend for next week. So yeah, let me think about that. If you've got any specific topics, maybe for assignments, drop a comment or in the chat window too. And yeah, let me give that some thought, and we'll see what we can come up with. I think it'd be kind of fun. And we'll focus it on learning, right? This isn't, although if you want to make a recording and then turn it into a release or something, that's awesome too. But maybe we can keep it kind of focused on learning, so we're all kind of learning stuff together. All right. Okay, David says, I've been cleaning up my studio. I need to do that. I hid most of the junk on the floor that you can't see from the last couple of videos, but yeah, I need to clean up too. All right. So yeah, so other ways that I have been trying to stay motivated is coming down here without the expectation of creating anything. So what I mean by that is I'll come down here. I do leave everything set up because I've got this dedicated studio area, right? So I can just kind of plug in and start going. Now, if I had to set something up, that would be a lot less motivating. So, but I come in and plug in, and then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just start recording, and without having a clue of what I'm going to play or anything. And then I'll just let it record for a while and then try some things. And if something happens to stick in my mind, or if I'm getting a sound that I like, then I'll run with it and kind of work on it to turn it into something, if that makes sense. The other thing that I'll just mention a little bit more about staying motivated is if you do have a space that you can dedicate for, musical setup, try and leave your rig set up so all you have to do is come in, turn it on, plug in, and you're ready to roll. Or if you're an acoustic guitarist, you're good to go, right? You just pull your guitar out and start playing. But if I had to set up a string of 10 pedals every day, or put everything away in the evening and then get it all out, I think that would be less motivating for me also during this time. All right, let's see, what else do we have? Do I have any, so something is wrong, says Bill, do you have any experience with using granular delays in your music or in your rig, like Red Panda Particle? I don't. I have used some software-based synthesizers that are kind of granular-based synthesis, and so you can take grains of what's going on in the synthesizer signal path and use that to really kind of mesh, transmogrify the sound. So I've done that, but not really with delays. So maybe before I would buy a pedal that does that, I might want to try a couple of plugins to see if I kind of like it and can work with it. Good question, though. And I think, where was that? Oh yeah, something is wrong. Was suggesting the Red Panda Particle. So yeah, maybe I'll check that out. Let's see, David says, when creating composing, do you think of compositions as a free-form entity, or do you ever have sections like movements with different paces, tones, and emotions? A lot of what I do here on this channel is improvisational, so I might have in my mind, in particular the Frippertronic stuff, I might have in my mind kind of like an overall arc in which I want the soundscape to go, but in terms of thinking specifically about movement 1, movement 2, etc., I don't always go there, or I don't often go there. I really like the dynamic of improvising and seeing how things come out, which, I guess that makes a lot of my music not very repeatable. Like if I were going to play live, I got to kind of, last summer when I played live, I kind of had to figure out how to take a few pieces that I basically improvised on and figure out how to kind of recreate them, but not even precisely, just kind of approximately recreate them. So yeah, I think a lot more improvisationally. On the long play channel with the multi-hour long videos, some of those I do think more in terms of movements, but again, I like the dynamic interplay of creating kind of random associations of different tracks and different lines, and then seeing how that plays out over a long period of time. It's almost like waves, and I guess they are. All right, Jeff says, I started posting ambient guitar stuff, mostly thanks to your challenge to make an EP last year. But that's awesome, Jeff. But I'm finally uploading content. Well, that's great. I've got a good friend who is a fabulous pianist. This is kind of related to this, and I've been talking to him for about the last year about starting a YouTube channel, and he's been kind of storing up musical ideas and things like that, and he finally started. And one, I'm not ready to reveal who it is yet. I was talking to him. He said, let me do a little bit more. But he's actually posting multiple times a week now, playing these really cool ambient piano pieces. After he gets a little more traction, I'm hoping to do a collaboration video with him. If I'm able to do that, I think you guys are going to be really impressed with his playing. But Jeff, back to you. I would encourage you now. You've got content, right? And you've got ambient guitar. You've kind of got you've got inertia behind that. So definitely keep posting and just kind of keep that rhythm up. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And when we're not in the middle of a pandemic, I find the more I do it, the more excited and motivated I get also. All right. Let's see, what else do we have? Aaron says, I traded my PRS 277 for drum mics. Oh no. Well, if it makes sense for you and your music, good call then, right? Every instrument, every piece of software, every piece of hardware, they're all tools, right? So if those tools are what you need right now, then that's the right thing to do for sure. Let's see. Okay, so P Junior J, hey Bill, what's your usual setting on the Iridium with your Fat Boy? Hang on a sec here. I can actually get it. Whoa, I know you're not supposed to do that on a live stream. Okay, here's the Iridium. I don't have autofocus on my camera, so it'll be out of focus if I hold it up. But on the last video that I did with the Iridium and the Fat Boy, that's a Carvin guitar. I don't have it available here to show you. I am using, I'll use either the round or the chime amp model, and usually just the default cab, so that's cab A, and then depending on where I'm going with it, let's see, bass is going to be in the middle, mids somewhere around the middle, maybe just pulled back a little bit for clean. If it's a lead tone, if you know your Alan Holdsworth, you know that middle is going to come up, right? Lots of mids, treble somewhere in the middle, and etc. So it's pretty straightforward. There's nothing super special about it. Let's see. I know this isn't your thing, but there's a band called Devil Driver. In the intro of one of their songs managed to maintain a sustained harmonic while fretting down the neck. Whoa. Sustained harmonic while fretting? I have no idea. That sounds really interesting. Maybe if you hit the harmonic on an open string and then we're able to play on the other strings without touching the string that is creating the harmonic. Maybe that's what they did. Without seeing it, I have no clue. What's my favorite style of tape delay? Space Echo, Echoplex, etc. I think my favorite style of tape delay is a tape deck, actually. So on the Strymon Volante, for example, there's the kind of the Echo Rec and the Echoplex thing, but there's also a studio tape setting. I think that's my favorite. I like that kind of clearer, cleaner kind of tape delay sound. Let's see here. Ebo and slide lap steel guitar combination. That sounds like a great experiment. I don't have a lap steel guitar, but that seems like you could do some pretty cool stuff with that for sure. So anyhow, so some other thoughts for staying motivated while we're all in quarantine. So here's one thing, and I know this isn't going to apply to everyone depending on where you live, but if you do live in a less heavily populated area, like if you're not in the middle of a big city like downtown Chicago or something like that, get outside if you can. Obviously, you know, obey the restrictions in your area, whatever's going on. But my wife and I are still trying to get into the national forest that's close to our house. It's about a 10-minute drive. So it has been more crowded, but since we live from people coming out from the Washington, D.C. area, but I think that's going to slow down because of new restrictions there. We'll see this weekend. But we know some, quote, secret little nooks and crannies that the people that don't live around here don't know about that. So we do try to get out and stay in the outdoors. To me, that's motivating. Exercise, I think, is also motivating. If you're just sitting around on the couch all day, it's definitely not going to help with motivation for sure. Let's see. Do I have a favorite headphone recommendation? Yes, my current favorite is the one. I actually have two headphones. I don't see the other one around. I don't know where it is. I really like Sennheiser's. So this is the Sennheiser HD 650, and they are open. They're kind of open. They're not closed-backed headphones, so they're open, right? So they don't block everything, but they've got a really great sound. And I actually have started using them some for mixing, in particular when I need to hear the higher end of the spectrum. Since my poor ears are not 29 anymore, I need to be a little more careful with the high end and really kind of listening to it. So these are good for that. For recording, for isolation, I also have another pair of Sennheisers. I think they're the HD 280 Pros. They're very moderately priced. They're closed back, so they have good isolation and they sound great. Those are my two favorites at this point. They're both Sennheisers. Let's see here. I don't know anything. So James says, I don't know anything about recording or equipment necessary to do it. I have been looking at the different PreSonus complete recording bundles. Any thoughts on these as a first step to get started? I am not familiar with the PreSonus software. I know that's Studio One, if I recall. There are a lot of folks using that and making some great sounding music, so I would expect that it would do really well. And if you start with a bundle, you're probably going to get one of the less expensive editions of Studio One, I'm guessing. And that's probably a good way to start. And then as you get your feet wet, you may want to upgrade to get more features. So you don't mention if you're on Windows or Mac. I happen to be a Mac user. I know Studio One is available for both Windows and Mac, so maybe someday I'll try it. But if you do happen to be a Mac user, a really good way to get started is just using GarageBand. And I know it sounds kind of weird or kind of funny to say that, but there have been whole albums created with GarageBand, and some of them sound great. And then when you're ready for more features, you can upgrade to Logic Pro, which is what I use. So I love Logic Pro, but I also recognize it's not the only game in town. There are so many great pieces of software. James, what I would say, though, is look around maybe at some of the options if you're at Windows or Mac. And then I think what's most important is to pick a piece of software and stick with it. Like what you don't want to do is change your recording software out every 6 months. Maybe a couple times at the very beginning, but I think it's really important to stick with one piece of software and really learn it so that the creative process isn't slowed down by you trying to figure out how to use the software, if that makes sense. The bundle, complete recording bundle, maybe that also includes a user interface, an audio interface. If so, PreSonus, yeah, they make some good stuff. I'm a Focusrite kind of guy, but I've heard some great recordings made with PreSonus too, so they're no slouch either. in the price range where they sit. All right. Yeah, my backdrop is very relaxing. Well, thank you. Again, this is actually a video that I posted on Chords of Orion long play. I should have been a little more forethinking, and then I could have put up a little advertisement, but if you go to YouTube and just type in Chords of Orion long play, you'll find that channel, and I've got multi-hour long soundscapes there for your audio entertainment, and they typically have kind of backdrop-y kinds of things like that that you see behind me right now. All right, let's see, what else do we have? Okay, so Awoke says, I have the Studio One 3. I finally got the hang of it. Yeah, there you go. Don't need anything else with the plugins they give you. That's great to hear. I have heard that Studio One is very full-featured in terms of all the effects, plugins, etc. So that's the other thing too. I fell into buying a lot of plugins early on, and it became very confusing. So after I got Logic Pro, I kind of dropped back to not using any plugins except the ones that came with Logic until I felt more comfortable with it. And then what I've been doing lately is just focusing on a few key plugins. One is the iZotope suite. I really like that a lot. It allows me to get mixes very quickly for YouTube posting, which is really important for me, obviously. And then also a couple of other companies like Audio Damage and Valhalla DSP. I love those two companies and the plugins they make. Other than that, I've got some other plugins, but I don't use them too much, and I try to limit what I use, again, so the software doesn't become a gating factor with me kind of fooling around with it and trying to figure it out. Okay, let's see what else we got going on. I don't remember the Sennheisers with the yellow foam, DJ Rex Paris. Black Hills National Forest, John, I would love to visit there. So bushwhacking is the way to go. Yeah, if you can still bushwhack in there, that's great. All right. Hey, Lee, love from the US, back to Hungary. I almost had an opportunity to come to Hungary this summer to play a show, but unfortunately, because of two things, funding issues on their side, and then also obviously the coronavirus, that whole thing isn't happening. But I was really hoping that was going to happen, to be able to go to Hungary to play a couple gigs. That would have been a lot of fun. Okay, is there really a noticeable difference between gold guitar plugs or chrome? I don't think there is. I don't know, there's a diminishing return on the investment, right? So I do think having good cables is important. Like this cable here, a company called Sinusoids sent me this cable, I don't know, a couple months ago, and it's a really nice cable, and I've been enjoying using it. It's really well made. It does seem to be pretty quiet, but they've got all these cables with like different characteristics, sound characteristics and things like that. And to be honest, maybe my ears are just not audiophile enough, but I never really hear a difference that I could put my finger on. But I do think there is a threshold of quality when you're talking about cables that you need to be concerned with, and you definitely don't want to scrimp on cables that are going to break or cause a lot of noise. Oops. Turn that off there. Oh, hey Tim, good afternoon to you. Back Ontario. Hope everything is kind of hanging in there in Canada. Hey Bill, what do you think about playing 7-string guitars? Well, I do have one 7-string guitar, and I have posted a few things with it on the channel, but I gotta be honest, it's not the guitar's fault, it's the guitarist's fault. I have had a hard time really getting into kind of the vibe of playing 12-string. Maybe I've been playing guitar too long, and I'm having trouble breaking out of my paradigms, but I'm having trouble getting my head wrapped around that extra string, and whether I want to think about it as a 6-string, an extra string on the high end or an extra string on the low end, and then thinking about it. Now, I haven't given up. I still have the guitar. It's a PRS 7, the SVN guitar, and it's really well made and it sounds great. I think in general, though, 7-string guitars can be a great asset for ambient style playing, just as they are for other styles, like some of the heavier styles, or jazz for that matter. There's been some really cool 7-string jazz created. Oh, and Johan, you're a lefty 7-string. Whoa, that's interesting. So I am left-handed, but I play guitar in the standard way. I don't flip it over, as you probably have noticed. Do I take inspiration from any ambient guitar artists? Yes, I do. I've talked about this before. I try not to listen to a solid diet of ambient music because I feel like, for me personally, it might box my thinking in a little bit more than I want it to. But yeah, certainly over the years, some ambient artists that I've really enjoyed are some of the classics like Brian Eno and Robert Fripp, and other people like that. The newer bands and groups that are typically called ambient, I don't necessarily view them as ambient music. I think a lot of them are more what I would call derivatives of post-rock. So let's take Hammock, for example. I don't know that I love Hammock. I think they've got some really great albums. Departure Songs just blows me away every time I listen to it. But I'm not sure I really consider them to be ambient music in the traditional kind of classical sense of the word, because it's not necessarily music that sits in the background. Not all of it. Now, they do have some that does, like their Sleepover? Yeah, their Sleepover series. Now that's meant to be ambient music, and I think it fits the definition of what I would call ambient. But a lot of these newer folks, I think, are more derivatives of post-rock, that's not a bad thing now, don't get me wrong. It's just kind of what label do you want to put on it. All right, Studio One. Okay, so Gene is agreeing Studio One is pretty full-featured. That's great. Thanks for chiming in there, Gene. Oh, that's interesting, but you're finding that Windows 7, that it's kind of buggy. Well, I wonder, is that because, have they stopped supporting Windows 7? Because Windows 7 now is sunsetted, right? It's not supported by Microsoft. I wonder if Windows 10 would be a more stable platform for Studio One. I don't know. Haven't used it, but just a thought. Are there any dark ambient guitarists you would recommend? Yes, there is one, and he passed away a number of years ago. His name is Eric Kesner, so the last name would be spelled Kesner, Kesner, Eric Kesner, and he actually was virtually a neighbor of mine, and I think he was really kind of one of the pioneers of using guitar-based equipment and effects to create dark ambient music. The name of his music project was called The True Color of Blood, and color was the English, not the American spelling. So COLOUR, True Color of Blood. You can still find his music on the internet, kind of all over the place. And there are a number of articles and interviews with him when he was still alive. He's really a super nice guy too. I really enjoyed the times I was able to our families were able to get together. Some of my kids were friends with his kids. And when I met him, I was still kind of in my hiatus, if you will, of recording. I just started learning digital recording. This is probably around the 2001 kind of time frame or so. And he was already there and was doing stuff. And so that he was kind of like an inspiration to me to kind of get off my butt and kind of move that forward in my own kind of musical projects and recordings. So Eric Kesner, True Color of Blood. All right. If anybody else has any dark ambient recommendations for Gene, please put them in the chat for sure. All right. Ambient seems to be marketed as neoclassical or minimalist these days. Yeah, John, that's it's kind of weird, isn't it? And I think I said this on the last live stream I did. I've been playing guitar for, I don't know, 45, 47, 48 years. I forget what it is. I'd have to go back and do the math. But even when I was in my 20s doing the progressive rock stuff, I used a lot of the techniques that I use today, the volume swells, the EBO, the stack delays, a lot of stuff like that. And we never called it ambient guitar. We called it progressive rock guitar or space rock guitar or maybe art rock guitar. I don't know. But the ambient guitar thing, I don't know. I never really heard of that until shortly before I started Chords of Orion. And I realized that it was I feel like it's a marketing term in some ways. A lot of people play ambient guitar, but they don't play ambient music, right? So what does that mean? As long as it sounds good, that's all I care about, right? And as long as the player is doing something that's really creative and interesting, I'm all about that. I don't really care about the label. Let's see. Bill, do you also produce ambient music using other instruments, sounds combined with guitar, like some minimalist beats and textures, for example? That's from Pavel. Yes, Pavel, I do. I've got a little bit of that here on the channel, where I will combine other tracks underneath the guitar. And then on again, a little plug for Chords of Orion long play, the video you see in the background behind me. On that channel, Chords of Orion long play, there's a lot of mixtures of guitar tracks plus synthesizer and other odd kind of textural sounds kind of being made. So I do, yes, some of that. I think it's pretty cool. I also, though, enjoy the pure, like, straight on, full on, only guitar stuff. I like them both. Okay, let's see. Dun dun. Hi, would you recommend Ego Plus or Mel 9 pedal? I have not used the Ego, but the Mel 9 I own and have used on a number of videos here. It is a great pedal, and it's worth considering. There are a couple of things you need to be aware of. One is it sounds really bad, to me, it sounds really bad when you plug it into a guitar amp. Let me repeat that. It sounds really bad when you plug it into a guitar amp. I dislike it. So the way I use it is only for recording, and I plug it directly into my audio interface after whatever effects I'm going to use. So I'll have the Mel 9, maybe that'll go into a couple of delay pedals, volume pedal, reverb, etc. But then I plug right in to the audio interface. The adding the tonal characteristic of a guitar amp, just really messes it up, in my opinion. Okay, my opinion only. The other thing is you need to realize that, and Electro-Harmonix has it documented, is they say that when you play it, you need to think about the way a real mellotron plays. So you can't shred with the Mel 9 or anything like that. It's kind of clunky to play, but that's the way the original mellotron was. If you've ever played a mellotron, raise your hand. I have. I used to have a mellotron in my basement, 35 to 40 years ago, and it's very clunky to play. You don't play fast lines on it. You play very slow and kind of mellow. That's the way the Mel 9 is also. If you understand that, it's a great pedal. All right. Awoke Meth says, I just got some new vinyl made for my new album. Well, that's great. Have I ever put any of yours on vinyl? No, I have not. I am not a big fan of vinyl. I was so happy when CDs came out and I didn't have to listen to clicks and pops anymore. What I prefer in terms of analog recording is reel-to-reel tape, and only if the signal has been recorded all analog. If you start in the box in your computer and then bring it out to either tape or create vinyl from that, in essence, you still have a digital recording, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. You're not really making the sound better by doing that. The only way you get that true analog sound is to have a true analog path all the way through. So I have not bothered with vinyl. I think it's kind of cool though. It'd be kind of nice to have a nice big LP, with a big cover, just for a physical record of the album. But like I said, I much prefer reel-to-reel tape, and I prefer 24-bit audio over vinyl. You probably didn't want to know that, did you? How can I practice ambient guitar? Well, you practice it the same way you would practice any guitar style. So start first with the basics of learning your instrument. Make sure you've got that down and you're continuing to improve on just playing guitar. So this would be chords, melodies, harmonies, picking, flat picking, whatever you're going to do. Really work on becoming excellent there. And then the second thing I would do is really learn the pedals that you're using in your signal chain. Really learn them well so you know how they work and how they can combine together for good tones. All right. Are hollow bodies better suited for ambient guitar? No, not necessarily. I think the way I like to think about using a guitar with ambient guitar playing, whether it's true ambient music or just, post-rock or whatever, the genre is, I like to think about starting with a guitar that really fits the way I play as a player. So it's got to fit me. It's got to be comfortable to play. And I like a guitar that's got a tone, just a dry tone that I really like. So, but I will say a couple of things to think about in terms of the guitar. One is I do find that guitars that have very high gain pickups tend not to work as well with very complex signal chains because there's not as much of a dynamic touch to the pickups. So I do prefer less dynamic pickups. Now, solid versus hollow or semi-hollow. I have a personal preference for semi-hollow guitars, which is why I own a bunch of them. And that's because I like the mid-range aspect of a semi-hollow guitar. But that doesn't mean that it's the only kind of guitar you can use for ambient playing. You can use whatever you like. Do I like David Sylvian? Heck yeah. Of course I like David Sylvian. I've been listening to him since about 1986. Yeah, he's awesome. Anybody positive near you? Yes. So I got an email from, you guys know I'm pretty religious. So as you probably have figured, I'm involved with a local church here in the area. I did get an email from our church today that said one of our older church members who is in a retirement home about 20 miles from my house, one of the residents there tested positive. So I'm actually kind of concerned because we've got a lot of our church family members, if you will. So part of our church community, the older members, there's several, probably a dozen folks that live in that retirement home. So I actually have fairly significant concern for them and how that's going to work out. I'm really hoping and praying that they've got the one case isolated and that they can keep it from spreading through the retirement home. Because as you probably know, those older folks are high risk, right? We've got a few other cases about an hour south and about 25, 30 miles north of me. Let's see, Tim, I rented the HX Stomp, not liking it at all. I have not had it hooked up to a computer. I'm not impressed. I have a Line 6 M5 pedal. It has the same delays and verbs. Is it an update or an interface for HX? Well, yeah, I guess the HX Stomp, I need to be a little careful in what I say. A lot of people really love the Line 6 effects. I'm not as big a fan of those particular effects as some other people are. Again, and I want to be so careful when I say this because, right, it's all personal preference and what works for each individual player. What I would suggest, though, since you're renting the HX Stomp, you may want to find out if it's running a newer version of the firmware. One of the great things about Line 6 is they do frequent firmware updates to their products, which I think is a great thing. And I know with my HX Stomp, I've seen some new features kind of show up over time as the firmware has been updated. So that might be worth doing. All right, let's see. Nate says, I bought the New Neighbor Immerse Mark II. What is my favorite setting on that delicious pedal? Oh my gosh. My favorite setting on both the Mark I and the Mark II is the Hall reverb. I adore the Hall reverb on the New Neighbor Immerse. And the way I like to run it is set the decay time almost all the way up, put the pedal in buffered bypass mode so that when you bypass it, the reverb decay will still continue on, and then set your level to taste beneath your guitar signal, and you can use that as a drone machine. I'm serious. It'll ring out for 15, 20, 25 seconds at a time, and as you're playing, you can just at the right times just kind of turn it on, capture certain notes that you want to drone, and then bypass it. A few seconds later, turn it back on, capture a few more notes. It's fabulous. I love that setting on the Immerse. As a matter of fact, I would buy the Immerse just for the Hall reverb. If that's all it had, I would still buy the Immerse. And it's got a lot more. All right. What kind of tube amp would you recommend for a darker, smoother, warmer tone? I don't know. I was going to say a Fender amp. But you have a Fender right now. It is pretty bright, isn't it? I don't know. Have you played around? Okay. So check this out. Have you tried, so this is Jimmy, by the way, Wyndham asking this question. So check this out. Have you tried turning the tone control down on your guitar? If you haven't, do that today, right now, with your Fender amp, and see if that gives you a better tone. I never run my tone knobs all the way up. On all of my guitars, the tone knobs are typically at about 3 to 4, maybe 5 tops for clean playing. And then when I play a lead line, I roll the tone knob back either all the way off or about to 1. Serious. You got to try it out and see if that makes a change in the way your amp responds to the tonal balance. Before you think about another amp, definitely give that a try. All right, what else we got going on here? Hey, by the way, thanks for hanging out here with me today. I really appreciate it. I really do. Let's see. Man. Have I tried? So I missed some things here. I'm going to try to go a little faster here. The Soundstone, this has come up before. I have tried the Soundstone. As a matter of fact, I have one right here. I did give the makers of the Soundstone some feedback. I think they're really good people, and it's a great idea to have a really low-cost option. I've not talked to them in the last few months, but if it's still the same as the one that I have, I don't think it's ready for prime time, and I would not recommend getting one. I think it's a great idea, but it definitely needs some work. Wait for version 2, for sure. Okay. Let's see. Sorry. What loop pedals do you use, Jimmy? Jimmy, didn't we just talk about the amp or something? Real quick, loop pedals. I use the my favorite loop pedal is the TC Electronic Ditto X4. I really like that. It's got the 2 separate loops, and you can run them either kind of synchronized or totally disconnected, so they can be really independent loops, which is really great for Frippertronics. The other key thing with that particular looper is it's got a loop decay option, so that's critical for Frippertronics style looping. So that's my favorite kind of looper up to this point. Hey Bill, do you like wah pedals? I do, a little bit. I don't use them very much though. I've used them a few times on the channel, either the Electro-Harmonix Cockfight with an expression pedal, which gives you a wah situation, or I also have a Morley power wah that I've used on a couple of pieces. But no, I don't use them a lot. I think it's, for me, it's kind of like use it sparingly at the right time. Let's see. What do you think TC Electronics should be on the Plethora 5? They should price it to whatever the market will bear, right? So if they've got it priced too high, it's not going to sell. So that's kind of up to them to figure that out. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Let me go faster here. What's the difference between a rock bass player and a jazz bass player? A rock... Oh, that's a joke, yeah. Okay, Jeff Berlin told that joke. Okay, I'll let you guys look at P. Junior J's comment there. Yeah, I don't know about the Boomerang 3 looper Allen TR. I've never tried one. So I would be interested in trying a Boomerang. I've thought about buying one. They're pretty pricey though. And so I've never kind of quite got my head around laying out the cash to get one, but they look pretty great actually. When I record a video of an ambient guitar song, are they one take? Yeah, so if it's a performance video, what I will do is, it is actually me playing, right? So I don't do the playthrough kind of videos. That's a real performance. But what I'll do is turn the recorder on. That would be the camera and my recording software, and I will start playing. So this past week I did an acoustic baritone piece. So that was about a 4-minute video, and I shot about, if I remember, about 11 or 12 minutes worth of playing. And I kind of messed it up a couple times what I wanted to play. So I just kind of, let the camera roll and went back and played it again, and then got the take that I liked and then created the video from that. And that's typically the way it goes. Occasionally I will get something in one take the very first time, and then I'm like super happy. You know, that's pretty cool. Let's see. Let's see. Do I use any white noise sound effects for your long plays? There are. I don't know about white noise, but I do use noise sometimes in those videos, kind of as an underlying texture that underlies some of the other layers of the soundscape. Yeah. So, and some of them probably would qualify as white noise, but maybe modulated white noise. Do I ever use the same kind of pedal multiple times within your signal chain? Yes. So I've got a couple videos on stacking delays and stacking reverbs. Stacked delays are very common for the types of things that I do. So in particular, combinations that I really like might be the TC Electronic flashback triple delay into a Strymon timeline or a Strymon dig. I really like those combinations, and since a triple delay has 3 delay lines, I guess that actually kind of counts as 4 stacked delays. So you can get some really interesting textures. You do have to be careful though about it not getting out of hand. I guess people would say that all my stuff is out of hand, right? But that's okay. Okay, I might have done this already, so let us know. Have you considered, have I considered doing some tone prints for TC Electronics? Would love. So I don't know. I have done some tone prints. I have not looked at the tone print editor lately or the tone print cloud. If anybody knows, let me know. The last time I really worked on tone prints, you really could, there was no way to share them. So let me know if that's changed, if we can upload them somewhere. To be honest, I haven't kept up with creating tone prints. Once I got a couple I liked, I've just kind of been using them. But let me know if you're aware of that in the chat. Okay. What's my favorite Strymon delay pedal? The one that's on the board at the time. Oh man, which one would be my favorite? Well, that's hard to say. I hate picking favorites. I get comments like that all the time on my channel, and I usually sidestep them. I try to be polite and answer, but it's hard to say. Favorite for what? If it's favorite for Frippertronics, that's going to be the Volante or the El Capistan. El Capistan might actually get the nod on that one. It's got such a classic, wonderful sound. Favorite for general purpose use, that might be the Timeline. Favorite for dotted delays, pattern delays, that probably would be the Dig. So it really kind of depends, right, on the usage. Favorite all round though is, well, the Timeline is kind of the general purpose delay, right, that Strymon makes. So that's going to be the most flexible and have the most options. So you could make an argument that might be a good favorite, but I like them all. Do I use the Ocean machine much? How do I rate the reverb on it? I do use the Ocean machine from time to time. A little more a couple of years ago when it first came out, and I did a series of videos on it, and which, by the way, I purchased the Ocean machine. I did not receive that from Moore, so that all was, if you go back and look at that stuff, that really is all my opinion on it. I would have to say I still think it's a good pedal. You get a lot of features for the money. Although in the last couple of years, there have been some other pedals I think that have come out that have similar capabilities that I might choose over the Ocean machine at this point. One of them would be the Source Audio Collider. combination of delay and reverb. And I would even, yeah, right, I'll just leave it at that. The Source Audio Collider, which is kind of off in the Ocean Machine kind of direction. That being said, it does sound good. I do believe that the reverbs are not as good as many other pedals are in terms of reverbs. I feel like that has always been one of Moore's limitations, has been the quality of the reverbs. The delays, yeah, they're pretty good. The reverbs, they work. It works well if you've got 2 delays and then some light reverb on the end. That works pretty well. But if you're trying to really kind of focus on a reverb, it's not the best thing in the world. I'm being interrupted here by people from my home, but that's okay. So let's see. What is the hardest effect to use in an ambient setting? I think the hardest effect to use in an ambient setting might be distortion. It's hard to say. Some of it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? So again, it's what's the hardest effect to use for what purpose, right? So I think some of the delay pedals and reverb pedals can be more complex to use. So maybe just the learning curve on a specific pedal may make it one of the harder pedals to use. But as far as the concepts go, they're all fairly straightforward, I think. Maybe reverb. Reverb can be way overused, way overused. And I'm guilty of that from time to time. How do I sync delays, tap tempo or MIDI? I don't typically hook my pedals up via MIDI, so if I do want synchronized delays, I'll just tap it in. If I were playing out live a lot, I would definitely take the time to get a MIDI setup, get MIDI set up and going and all that good stuff, because you don't have that kind of time to waste in the middle of a gig. Favorite pick? I like the Fagon picks. They're made in the Netherlands. These are really good. I use the bluegrass style pick, so you can see it here against my black hoodie there. It's got little holes in it. I also like the Jim Dunlop jazz tone picks. These are great for baritone. I use those a lot. I like. I've done videos on this, but I like picks with sizable thickness. Like this is a 2-point-something millimeter pick, and it's very stiff, right? It's not at all flexible. So I like that a lot. I think you get a lot more control and you get better dynamics and better tone when you use a thicker pick versus a thinner pick. All right, where do I like to use my tone boost? I don't use a tone boost. I don't use a booster at all for any purpose, but I think if I was going to use a booster, I would put it at the beginning of the chain somewhere around the compressor before any of the other effects. Let's see. What do you play when you're not playing ambient guitar? I play acoustic guitar a lot. Just plain old acoustic guitar. I like bluegrass. I like Celtic music, different types of fingerstyle acoustic guitar. Love all that stuff. So that's typically what I'm playing when I'm not down here recording on the baritone guitar or something like that at this point in my life. Any thoughts on the Arturia effects plugins? No, I've never used them. Would be interesting. Let's see. I have A Coop says, "Hi, I've fallen in love with the old Boss EH2 enhancer recently. any experience with this guy. I do not have any experience with that guy. I got to look that up. See if it rings a bell. Oh, that does look familiar. Is that kind of like some kind of an EQ curve kind of pedal? This looks familiar. I may have used one like 40 years ago or 35 years ago before I got married. But if I did, I don't remember what it does. So Acoop, let me know what that is. Do I watch Rick Beato and Adam Neely? Yes, I do. I like those guys. As a matter of fact, I met Adam Neely in the beginning of February. He happened to be doing a gig about 25 miles away from my house. So one of my sons, who is a bass player, who is a big fan of Adam's, we got tickets and went to see the show, and I had the pleasure of hanging out with him and talking to him for about 20 or 25 minutes after the show. He's really cool guy and super, super talented. His band, Sungazer, if you're not familiar with his band, you gotta go check them out. They've got a couple of EPs on Bandcamp. Gotta go check them out. They're fabulous, and it was really fun watching him play live. Rick Beato is great because he's got so much industry career experience. He is a fount of knowledge, and I love his son, who has perfect pitch. That's really, really cool. Really cool, for sure. Let's see here. For loop layers, use delay or just dry? Yeah, that's a good question. So I've got a video on that. I wish I could post the link here, but if you go search on the channel, I've got a video on where you put the looper in relationship to delay pedals. I typically put the looper before the delay pedal, so I create a loop of dry signal, and then I put it through my delays and reverbs. However, that's not to say that's the right way to do it. Many other people get really great effects by putting the looper after the delays and the reverbs and capturing a fully affected loop. So it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I would recommend trying it both ways to see what works for you and the type of music you're playing. All right. Gosh, I finally got caught up. So let's see, back to the original topic, create while quarantined. What haven't I mentioned yet? I think one of the other things I've been doing to kind of keep myself motivated is trying to think about new things to do. Like, what have I never done before? Or what haven't I done for a long time that I need to think about doing again? So I will give you an example. From time to time here on the channel, I play a piece outside, and I did that recently in the backyard underneath my old willow tree that I call Old Man Willow. But I've done a couple of videos where I played in the National Forest, and I've been thinking to myself, I need to plan out a piece that I can play out in the National Forest. So that's an example of what I'm thinking about for me. I haven't done it for a while, it's not brand new, but I'm trying to think about different ways of doing it so it's different from the other two pieces that I played in the National Forest. I want to do something that's got a little bit different of a twist to it. Maybe even some B-roll video, perish the thought, which I typically don't do on this channel. So anyhow, that's another thing to think about. If you're trying to stay motivated for creating, think about something new that you've never done before. Okay, let's see. All right, so we got some people chiming in before and after looping, so check out the chat for ideas. We've got some experience here for other folks, from other folks. So definitely read what they're saying and think about it. Have I ever heard of the band Sun O? I have. It's been mentioned to me several times on the channel, and I've listened to them. I think they're an interesting band. It's not a band that I would listen to very often, just from the style, right? But I have heard of them. Any good recommendations for mixing acoustic guitar? Well, I think getting it, so if you ever listen to Home Studio Corner, the guy that runs that always says, get it right at the source. And I think acoustic guitar is a really good example of that. Make sure that you're able to get a really good, clean, just nice sound from the dry acoustic guitar. And this would be whether you're using microphones or if you've got a pickup and you're just plugging in. Make sure that your dry, clean tone is exactly the way you want it to sound, with very little EQ and compression. Make sure that it's just a really high quality sound before you go slamming on a bunch of effects. That's what I would recommend generally. Also, in terms of mic, if you are miking an acoustic guitar, what I've been doing over the last few years, these are not the mics that I use for acoustic guitar, but they were just laying here. I've been doing an XY pattern kind of miking setup, and I feel like that's worked out really well for the type of guitars that I have and the stuff that I do. So what I typically do is I bought a kind of a microphone, a stereo microphone holder that attaches to a mic stand, and it allows me to place the mics in either this configuration or in this configuration, right? So they are either level with each other or stacked on top of each other. And I'll try them both ways depending on what I'm recording to see what sounds better. And then I usually point it right around the 12th fret of the guitar where the neck meets the body. And I can usually get a nice clean tone that way. All right, let's see. Cooking good food. That's a great thing to do to stay creative. Absolutely. Let's see here. Oh, Tired Horizon's got some advice for miking. Excellent. Thank you, Tired. Or should I call you TH? Looper and effect direct into amp or effects loop? I don't own an amp with an effects loop, but several of the amp modelers that I own have effects loops. And what I typically do is run my delays, my looper. What I typically do is run my volume pedal, looper, delays, and reverbs in the effects loop. But depending on your rig, you will need to experiment to see what sounds best for you. Have I ever thought of making a separate channel for prog rock? I don't have time for that. If I was able to do this full time, maybe I could do that, but to be honest, I don't have time for a progressive rock channel. I'd have to kind of figure out what that would even look like, right, in terms of a channel. But I do still like old school prog rock. I was listening to Genesis Foxtrot just the other day. Supper's ready. It rocks. Have you ever tried acoustic strings on an electric? No, I have not. I don't think it would end well. I feel like it would be out of balance with the pickups, but maybe not. How do I handle line noise from power supplies? I have not really had much of an issue with power supplies, but you can't see it on camera here, but I'm sitting next to a rack that has my audio interface, etc. And I do run all of my power into 2 power conditioners that I bought. I actually bought them both from Musician's Friend. They were like B stock on sale, so they were very cost effective. They're rack mount power conditioners. And so I run everything through them. So I think that probably helps with this old house. I've got this is 120-year-old house with a lot of old wiring in it. So that's what I do. The other thing I do is I typically don't run single coil pickups because I do have a big noise issue in this house with single coil pickups. And I think the fix for it's probably way more money than I'm willing to or able to spend to improve this situation. So I do tend to stay away from single coil pickups. Yeah, so Zoya, Tired Horizon, that's the small synthesizer unit. No, that's not it. I never did get that small synthesizer. I decided instead to upgrade a camera for the channel. And so I'm live streaming on my old camera, but I bought a new camera for my main video recording, which I've really been pleased with. So the small synthesizer, that could happen, but it'll be a little bit further down the road. John Riley Foxtrot, absolutely. Have ever thought of narrating books? I don't know. I've thought about doing a YouTube channel where I just kind of read poetry or something like that over top of music, perhaps. But yeah, I don't know. The audiobook thing sounds like a lot of work. Do I like Nashville tunings on acoustics? Something is wrong. Yes, I do. I just did a video of Nashville tuning, me playing a Nashville tune guitar about a month or 2 ago. If you look back on the channel, you'll find it. Let's see. Don't cross the patch chords with the power chords. Helps a little. That's good advice, John. Do I have any songs that are 15 to 25 minutes? Yes, many. Absolutely. Check out here on the channel, and then Chords. Oh man, you guys are great. You're helping me promote Chords of Orion long play. Every piece on Chords of Orion long play is 15 to 25 minutes or longer. Many of them are 8 hours long. Obviously, they're looped. And on that channel, what I'll typically do is create a piece of music that's about 30 minutes in length, and then I will loop it and shift it between the loops to make things subtly different for those soundscapes. So yeah, I do that quite a bit. All right, let's see here. What's going on? What do I think of the Boss SY-1000 synth pedal? I would love to try it. I need to, I probably should reach out to the very excellent gentleman at Boss that I've been working with on some of the pedals that they've sent me as demo units. So thanks for that reminder, actually. I will reach out to him and see if that might be if it might be possible for me to get a unit to try and demo. What are my favorite classic ambient artists? Oh, yeah, I talked about this earlier, but yeah, Harold Budd's good too. Obviously, Eno. Boss makes MIDI synth where you don't need MIDI pickup. That is true. That's like the SY series, right? Absolutely. You need me to narrate a documentary video, but I don't have any money, LOL. Did the pandemic cost you some gigs? No, because I didn't have any gigs. Actually, here's what it cost me. Nothing monetary, but my weekly gig has been to help play music in my church. So We're not doing that now. So here's the interesting thing. Here's what I am doing though. On Saturday morning, I go over and shoot a video of my pastor preaching his sermon, and then we post it on our church's YouTube channel. I figured I know something about YouTube, so I can help out there. But no, I haven't lost any gigs, except for that one in Hungary. That was the one that I was mentioning earlier. That one was part of the issue there was the coronavirus. They were having some funding issues too, but maybe that would have been resolved if the coronavirus wouldn't have happened. Do I ever cut long recordings into part 1, part 2? Yeah, absolutely. Sure. I think that's a good idea too. Sometimes I'll actually play, if I'm playing a piece and I know that I might want to cut it into, I will play for a while and then kind of pause. I won't stop playing all the way, but I'll kind of pause and create some space where it's kind of a logical break in the music. So you can definitely do that for sure. So John, you lost your first gig in over 20 years, but it's a small matter in the great scheme of things. Yeah. Unless you are a full-time touring musician, then this is a disaster, right? Potential disaster for you from a career perspective and money perspective. One thing that's interesting, I have noticed on my YouTube channel since this coronavirus thing hit, I've noticed that I've gotten a little less traffic than normal for this time of year. And I think people's YouTube viewing habits have changed because of the coronavirus. So people are home a lot more. Maybe they're home with their families. So maybe people were watching YouTube at work. That never happens, does it? And they're not doing that now. Who knows? But it's kind of interesting to see how the pattern changes with, kind of this huge societal shift. All right, let's see here. What do I do when playing live and hit a wrong note while looping? Oh yeah, I have never had that experience. I have hit plenty of wrong notes while playing live, but when you're looping, then you've got to deal with that note repeating over and over again. So that's an issue, for sure. I would try to get, if that did happen, I would try to get rid of it as quickly as possible, or add some other loop layers on top to mask the wrong note, or just pretend that it was a right note and maybe nobody would know the difference. Any experienced thoughts on the EHX Super Multitrack Loopers? I don't have any experience with them at all. All right. So anyhow, I think I've been on for a good while now. I feel like I'm probably running out of things to say, but my favorite Holdsworth album, why'd you have to bring that up? 16 Men of Tane. Love that one. But that being said, I hope that, in addition to just having a good chat today, that I hope you guys are really thinking about ways that you can kind of take advantage of what's going on, perhaps a change in your life, and use it to help create. One thing I would really hate to have happen with any of us is that we just totally lose the desire, the enthusiasm, the inertia that we had in terms of creating. So, really kind of focusing on artistic creation during hard times is really an important thing. And one of the things that strikes me is if you kind of look through history and look at artists through history, some of the great pieces of art were created during disastrous times in the history of the world. And so I have every expectation that this difficult time that we're all going through right now is going to result in some really interesting art. that gets created that kind of makes a statement about what's going on or what the person was thinking or whatever they were going through. So don't give up hope on creativity or creating, but just think about how you can really kind of leverage that. All right. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. I really appreciate your time and hanging out here. I think you guys are just an awesome community. I'm so thankful for you. Again, real quick, if I can just make one more blurb. If you've not checked out Chords of Orion long play, check it out. Also, if you may have an interest in supporting Chords of Orion a little bit more, if you go to my Bandcamp page, chordsoforion.bandcamp.com, there is a subscribe option. You can see what's there, see if you think that might be right for you. And I will see all of you on the next video, which should post on Monday on the main channel. I'm hoping to get the next Chords of Orion long play soundscape out on Sunday evening. So see all of you soon, and stay safe out there.